All right, so today we get to spend a few minutes with our very own Chris Fiamengo, Team TMG team leader and high producing real estate professional. And one of the ways that he's able to produce at that high level is by locking down buyer consultations. And today he is going to teach us how to set the buyer's consultation. Take it away, Chris.
All right. Thanks, Jason. It's good to be here. Happy Friday, everybody. So yeah, we really believe at Team TMG in the buyer's consultation. There's a lot of reasons why, and I'll go into that. So this is a little bit about how to set those consultations. Later on, we're going to do another one of what the consultation will actually look and sound like. But this is just getting there, which is kind of half the battle. First off, I like to talk about a bit about why agents don't do consultations. These are some of the things that I've seen from other agents. Some of these are my own, past like mindset and beliefs. So we'll go through them. And if there's anything, like, I want this to be interactive, if there's anything that you would add, because I know that most of everybody on here is committed to the buyer's consultation. We understand the value, we understand where it can take us in this business. But if you want to add on stuff that, maybe reasons why you weren't doing them before, please let us know. But I think what I've seen is that it assumes it is a conflict to not lead the buyer, to kind of let them lead, and it takes away our process. So we just are kind of going with the flow and what the buyer wants. We're not confident or comfortable leading and advising in the process, so we're not experts in that quite yet, and so we don't know exactly where our value is. Afraid to ask for the commitment. Just simply asking can be frightening for some people, and a lot of that is for a couple different reasons. But one is you're afraid you'll lose them because you're unclear on the value. Another is not knowing what to say next or when to actually close on the consult, like the next logical step. And I think one of the things that really pushes us out is like just not being practiced, right? So not actually having this down pat to where it becomes a really natural language pattern for you to get to this point. And the fear of objections to this consultation, because objections ultimately feel like rejection, even though they're not. They're just a way for us to find like kind of a problem and how we can solve that. And then the last thing was doesn't even have a buyer's consult, doesn't even have the process. Like many of us, as know that listing agents, people that do listings usually have some sort of presentation. But a lot of people don't even consider that the buyer should have one as well, that, takes them through the process. Is there anything that I left out? You guys chime in, reasons why, you maybe hadn't in the past done consultations, or things you've heard of other agents.
I think it sets a bar for, loyalty too, because that's what we're trying to establish, is trust and loyalty. So it gives us a way of teaching them and building that trust.
Absolutely. Yes. And that would lead me to, why a buyer's consultation, so why would we actually even do this? So the first part is to, set expectations. So make sure that there's never a time when they don't know exactly what's going to be happening next or how we're going to deal with the next step. Giving them our strategy on what we're seeing, successful buyers in this market, how they're able to win, getting and creating a game plan together. Establishing that you're an expert in your market, standing out from the crowd, that you're somebody who's going to bring them value. Also to find potential problems or roadblocks. So, we were talking about it this morning about, what buyers are feeling out there. So really digging deep on, what their wants and needs are, where they want to go, what their potential pitfalls, roadblocks are, all that really, really important. And, it formalizes the relationship, and it, we ultimately at the end of it make a decision if we want to work together. So kind of what you were talking about, Ashley, with the trust, establishing rapport. So How do we, through the call, create enough value to where they actually want to meet us? Because set and met rate, like I'm sure a lot of you that are experiencing actually booking these, does every time does the buyer show up? Right. So, and it's the same on the listing side too, you guys. It's not a unique problem with just the buyers, but like if we haven't created enough value, and we have to kind of create also a gap of like where they are and where they want to be. So I think that's really, really important. And the way we can do that is kind of establish a lot of value quickly and upfront through our questions. So just digging a little bit deeper, using the present tense questions, which are a lot less threatening in the beginning. We don't sound like sleazy salesmen. It creates less sales resistance. It allows us to uncover the motivation and be really crystal clear on our prospects' why. I cannot stress that one enough. Motivation and the prospects' why, like, there's something going on in this person's life. Like, how many of you guys like moving? You can raise your hand. Yeah, no one. Because it's stressful, right? So this is actually a process that rewards preparation, or preparation rewards this process, I should say. So we need to understand, like, what is it about what's going on in your life and why you need to move. So we're being a problem finder, and so we can be a problem solver. And there's probably not a whole lot that we haven't run into that we can't solve, but we have to understand and be really crystal clear first. Like I said, creating the gap where the prospect is and where they want to be, taking the time to establish rapport and connect through bridging acknowledgments, and that is something we kind of do naturally in conversation, but I find, and I see it a lot. I see it in myself. I see it in other agents. There's a robotic thing that goes on when you're talking to these people. Like, you want to get your spiel out, right? And it sounds kind of scripted and robotic. It doesn't necessarily sound natural. Like, they want to open up to you. So really important to use those bridging acknowledgments. Like, yeah, okay, so when you were saying blah, 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 help me understand that. Oh, okay. And then repeat back, mirroring, right? So, mirrors, they don't adapt. Mirrors reflect. So that's the really easy part about mirroring. You can become very, very much like this person. And that's the most familiar person to them, right? Is themselves. If you just mirror and match their tone and the words they're using. So that's why we kind of stress in the very beginning of these calls, like, we're mirroring and matching the first word and the tone. And then, we're able to qualify them on their timeline, who the decision makers are, and potentially their financing, right? I always say, like, I don't wait for these people to be pre-approved before I qualify them as a buyer, because I don't really care. I want to know where they're at so I can get them in front of our lender. And our lender can solve problems, and I'm certain about that. So it doesn't really matter to me. I will still take the time, invest upfront, a little bit of time, so we can establish them to being a successful buyer in this market. And then one of the best practices I've learned is these, like, when we were talking about how not everybody shows up. Like, don't set the appointment way too far out. Like, I wouldn't go more than 2-3 days at the most. When you're able to talk to these people, they're like hot and heavy and ready for real estate, right? So if there's any kind of objections on, like, is this the right move, they can talk themselves out of it really, really easy. I just had it happen the other day. I was only like a day out from having the conversation, and she just talked herself out of actually even, talking to me and having the consultation. Something came up. She won't tell me. But, I'm going to keep on that and follow up. So that's another story. But anyway, any questions about this stuff? Pretty simple, right?
But that it's really great, and thank you for breaking it all down like that and really showing, because I think that if as agents, right, if we're not really understanding how powerful this portion is, that maybe we could say, oh well, I can just kind of touch on this as I'm showing here and there, but when you really break it down and you look and you see like, oh, that's a ton of stuff that I have to kind of get out there, and a ton of value. So yeah, let's make time for it and show my professionalism. So thank you.
Yeah, and I was like, Ashley was talking about luck right before we started recording, and it actually reminded me of something I was listening to today. And it was actually something Ben Kinney said. So those of you who aren't familiar with Ben Kinney, very, very successful real estate agent locally, team. He has a really high performing team on Keller Williams, right? And also has created some of the most notable real estate platforms as well. So multi-millionaire, probably almost worth what, $1 billion now, huh, Jason? Close. But anyway, he said there's 4 types of luck. I thought this was really cool. So there's blind luck, right? That's kind of what we were experiencing in 2020, 2021, even parts of 2022, right? Just blindly falling into real estate deals because there was like a pulse, right? And the interest rate was so low, so everybody could afford it, right? There's skills luck. So based on the skills that you're building every day, right, you're able to get a little bit of luck just based off like what you're able to communicate, how confidently, what your skills are, your expertise. There's attraction luck. So those of you that aren't new, been in the business for a little while, you'll like have experienced like somebody, and even you new people, right? Like just being who you are. Like all of a sudden, Trisha has a buyer's consultation because a friend of hers, knowing who Trisha is as a human being, that attraction luck was bestowed upon you, right, Trisha? So, and then there's legwork luck. And that's the one where we're just pounding on the phones. We're trying to have new conversations every day. We're trying to use our skills and our attraction and somewhat our blind luck to get us to our goal, right? So anyway, I thought that was really good when we're talking about buyer's consultations. And, this does it mean that every single conversation is going to lead to a consultation? No, but, the logical next step should be the consultation. Now, a lot of us, when we're dealing with the Zillow, the Redfin, the Ojo leads and stuff, and they're inquiring on a property, there's one of 2 ways you can go in that initial conversation. Right. So you can either just like kind of lay down and do what's called a go show, right? Take your chances. Maybe don't have as much confrontation or ask any kind of like valuable questions or anything, but just kind of focus on the home, right? So we know that that's not as successful, right? Because if the home is the product that we're selling, and that home isn't something that they actually like, what kind of value do we have now? We have 0 value, right? Like we've done nothing but open a door, right? Now, at the very least, if they're battling you on that first call about like sitting down, talking a little bit about your wants and needs and the market, the buying process and all that, right? Then hopefully we're asking some more questions during the showing, right? And that the logical next step. So, hey, I just want to make sure if this one's not a fit, that we can find you exactly the homes that you're looking for. And the way I usually do this is I do a quick 15-minute sit down, little strategy session, talk about your wants and needs, really digging deep on that, right? So you try to sell it again during that showing. And we'll talk a little bit about what that script looks like. It's really simple. You guys have heard me say it a lot. It's basically, it's never saying consultation. It's never saying, like a meeting or whatever. That sounds a little bit too clinical. It's just breaking down what's going to happen in that meeting and how they're going to get value from it. So this is one thing that we've always been kicking around about, like top 10 things you should be asking every lead. We always lead with, are you just looking for fun or window shopping, whatever it is, or are you looking to make a move pretty soon? We want to work towards the no's, right? We want them to say window shopping or looking for fun. Oh, okay, awesome. I love looking for fun too. What has you looking at properties right now? Right? So just going right back to the motivation. Looks like this one is in Linwood. What kind of locations? Going back to the motivation, the why. So number two, if the idea, so we would challenging thinking during these calls is really big. So a lot of times you'll have people that are like way out. They'll say they're way out, like, oh, I don't want to do anything for like a year. Okay, yeah, totally understand. You don't want to do anything for a year. What's important about, between now and a year from now? What's different? Right? So we're asking them, okay, yeah, I totally understand that you have XYZ going on in your life. So, I mean, if the ideal, like perfect home came on the market in the next, like, say 2 months, is that something you would consider viewing, or would you skip on it? Right? So it's, again, challenging like where they're at. Okay, and when you said a year, do you want to be in your home in a year, or do you want to maybe start the process of looking for your home in a year? Again, talking about timing, right? So, and then, just asking, so tell me about your ideal home. What would you change about where you're living currently? Some good high value questions to kind of get them talking, talk about trust. I think it was Stephen Covey who said, seek to understand rather than to be understood. And that's awesome, obviously, really great affirmation. But Chris Voss, he said something like tactical empathy is even better than that, right? So tactical empathy is like making them feel that you understand them. So, I mean, however you guys do that, you guys are all unique. And when you're feeling like a good conversation and you're in flow with people, it's like, how do you get there? Usually you're asking questions, right? You're making it about them. It reminds me of like Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Like there was a chapter in there that talks about him. He literally went around at this conference and he just asked people questions. And everybody remarked that, man, he was the most interesting person there, right? It's amazing how people just like to talk about their situations and themselves. So give them that space. Like, sound interesting. Like, Ashley always gets on me. She's like, dude, you got to stop. Like, you got to stop making people talk more, because like they're like, when you already have converted them, right? She's like just stop that, and I'm like, I can't turn it off. Like, I just want to be interested in people, and they keep talking to you, they open up. We wear a lot of hats in real estate. Like, you become a counselor, you become, the stager, you become all things to all people, right? So okay, so we're getting back to the question. So these people, they're new, they don't know you, they don't trust you, right? So pick up on things, when it comes to their activities. So how long have you been looking? Oh, I've been looking for a little while. Oh, great. Have you gotten a chance to get inside any of the homes yet? No, just looking online. Okay, great. If they do say, yes, I have been been getting into homes. Oh, okay. Have you been going to open houses alone, or are you working with an agent? I mean, it's the next best question. Oh, I've been working with a few different agents. Okay, great. So now you have a little bit more information to go off of. If they have an agent, great. Who are they working with? How's the service been? How's it been going? Follow up with the lead on the service. A lot of times when they're looking on these portals, they're getting less than stellar service. So, it's having an agent objection is a tough one to get over. But we have a script for that in our role plays that we kind of go through a 4-step process to kind of uncover, the advantages or benefits of working with that agent if they're really committed to them. So, and then, talking about, financing, really qualifying that. Have they been through the pre-approval process yet? If they have a lender, that's great. Would they be interested in getting a second opinion? The lender that we work with, we've closed hundreds of transactions smoothly and on time. A lot of my clients trust this lender. Is that something you'd be interested in comparing apples and apples to? Do you think you would find some value in connecting with that lender? Like I said, is there anything you absolutely want or would absolutely avoid in your next home? Timeline, when would you ideally like to be in your next home? And then the decision makers question. So is there anybody else involved in the decision in this process that I should be aware of? Those people always need to be at the consultation. That's another thing we're going to run into is, oh yeah, my wife can't be there, but I'll come. It's like, oh, that's great. Like there is quite a bit of moving parts with this here. And I just want to be able to, communicate this to the both of you so you don't have to tell her after the fact. Is there a better time when we can all meet? I would absolutely try to get in front of everybody. Like you would never go to a listing presentation and just have one of the decision makers there, right? So, and that one's always, that's a dart in the side, right? When you realize, oh my gosh, I didn't qualify him on that. So always qualify the decision makers. Any questions on this stuff, guys? Anything you want to add?
Well, I would just like to take a second and say, I don't know if you guys noticed this or not, but just how smooth and confident Chris was in asking these questions. Even as he was kind of going off in little rabbit holes and he's asking more questions about more questions, right? And how good he has gotten at asking questions, right? Because this is a skill. It's an art, and like Chris, I'm sure you can talk about it a little bit, but we don't start off this way. It's kind of like going to the gym. You don't just throw up 225 your first time on the bench press. You got to work your way up, or whatever a reasonable weight is for anybody. But so can you talk a little bit about like that process of learning how to ask these questions? Because yeah, man, you sound super great.
Well, thank you. Yeah. And I'll admit, like, I don't always feel like I sound great, right? So part of it is like just always feeling like I can get better. So I just have a drive that like and my goal is it comes from my inner why. My inner why is to connect to people and help them, right? And to build something for my family's future. And I know the way of doing that is by connecting with people, right? And furthering my business. So, repetition is the mother of all skill. I think that you need to practice these things. I think you need to know a really, really strong why. And also, if you have a strong why, you should also have a really strong value, because part of the thing that I felt like they were just, if I didn't get in what I wanted to say, they were going to hang up the phone. But if you actually slow down and know your value, and know that, hey, like if you really want to make a move, I can definitely help you. Just knowing that, believing, then these questions come actually a lot more naturally. Does anybody struggle with that? Like, I just feel like I'm an interrogator when I'm asked, like, that's another reason why we use bridge questions. Like, oh, okay, but you were saying the other thing, like, walk me back when you said X, Y, Z. Help me understand that a little bit better. Like those things, it's like, I was just like going off a punch list of questions before versus like, hey, I really want to understand you. So that's kind of what has helped me. And just, repetition and listening to other people are doing it like a lot higher performers, like just trying to get any tips or tricks of connecting with people like psychologically too. Because human behavior is pretty consistent. So anyway, does that help answer that? Okay. So asking for the console script. So like after the discovery, after all these questions, right? Like there's like this, like it's almost untangible. Like you have to really feel it out. Like when is that you cannot sell this too quickly. If you haven't done enough trust building, establishing your rapport, discovering like if it's even a fit for us to work together, right? If I can actually even help you, if we might have some possible options, right? Do you notice how I'm saying these things? These are not threatening, right? So, hey, it might be, we might have some possible options, but I would have to understand a lot more clear, like what you're doing now and where you want to go. and if we can even help you, because you might be better off like sticking with what you're doing. The next step for us would be kind of to get together, and we can meet in person or over Zoom, and we can go over exactly what to expect in the buying process. I want to catch you up to speed with what the market's currently doing right now, and then really dig a lot deeper on your wants and needs so I can find you that perfect home. The box close, you can use it or not. Like the box close is basically giving them two options. They're not going to say yes or no here. Like, would afternoons or evenings be better for you? I like that one because I do have time blocked out for afternoon consultations and for evening consultations. Okay, so by the way, something that I'm getting a lot more strict on in my routine is like really using my morning hours, like where I'm most energetic and like available and just like creative, right? Those morning hours, I'm trying to use them more for buyers, for prospecting. So I'm using them for like 9 to 12. I'm like prospecting in some way, shape, or form, whether or not it's cold, like I've never talked to these people, if it's follow up, if it's active clients, right? Because right, in this market, we have to keep our active buyers even going, don't we? I'm sure a lot of you have seen that, we have to keep them interested in buying. Like there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of noise out there, right? Like the economy and inflation and the Fed, and it's all negative, negative, negative. Like we have to keep them engaged, right? So whether it's cold, it's follow up, like I've talked to them and I want to, just kind of keep engaging, like see where they're at, or if they're active, that's between like 9 and 12. And then I tried to use the rest of it for a little bit of admin and then spaces for consultations. So after the meeting is set, I always like to do 3 things, right? So I give them a button-up script, right? Okay, so when we get off this phone, like, great, we're gonna meet at XYZ time. Great. So when we get off this message, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just shoot you a quick text so you have all my information. You can save me in your contacts. I'm going to send you a little email about myself, link to my business site, my website, and then a little bit about the buyer's process. And then I'm going to send you separately a calendar invite on either Zoom, or did you guys know that you can send calendar invites for just things over your calendar on your iPhone? I'm sure they have the same thing for Android, but you can say, hey, meeting for coffee at Starbucks, and send an invite, and they can either accept or decline that. So again, like we are just establishing rapport, we're building trust. And the way that we can start to trust them a little bit more is if they commit to us every step of the way. Like, I mean, Terry was mentioning it earlier. I don't even know if he knows what he was saying, but Terry Goodenough, he was saying, just the fact that she showed up on time kind of already indicated that she was pretty serious, right? So those little micro commitments. So each one of these is a micro commitment. And then this is kind of what the email looks like, you guys. So you can rip this off or whatever, or, establish something that's, perfect for you. But it just says, it was nice talking with you today. I look forward to meeting you on Zoom, whatever date. I wanted to provide a link to my Google business site. So that's social proof, right? You can see my track record, my reviews. You can see what I do well, what clients are saying about me. It's also links to my other website, right? Which is also a search platform. And then our group website at the Madrona Group. So always lean back on the group. Like this is a top 1% performing group. If they click on the Madrona Group, like they're like, okay, these guys are professionals, right? I specialize in residential real estate in these counties. You can say whatever you want there. Then those of you that have done a YouTube video, put the link in right here. Absolutely do that. Why? Because it humanizes you. This is who you are in real estate. This is how you operate. This is what your face looks like. People want honest and they want integrity. Well, they don't know that from, a 5-minute conversation, but they can look at social proof. They can decide based on your face if they trust you, right? And then, you have all these tools here, right? All these blogs, all these, it's really, really powerful. And then I attach the steps to the buyer's process PDF. And that's basically like a pre-listing packet. It's a pre-buyer's packet, basically, right? So it gives them exactly what to expect. If you have the time, review it in our meetings. Sometimes I've shown up to hey, did you get a chance to look at the buyer's thing that I sent? No, I didn't. Or yes, I did. Okay, awesome. Is there any questions up front, or do you want me to just go through it a little bit? Sometimes they'll already have questions. They'll have, things they want you to solve for them, or things that they want to know, and that's all it would take for them to just like establish whether or not they want to work with you. And then if you need anything else between now and then, call, text, or email me anytime. I have my email signature. It's all professional. Everything looks good. And I just think that it gives you a lot more professionalism, right? It shows your expertise. It really establishes you as an authority. Any questions on that stuff?
Well, just, like if you guys, is there any question in anybody's mind right now as you're watching this or even here that Chris is a top producing agent, right? I mean, what a professional, right? Like he's covered like all these bases and you're like, dang, okay. This is amazing. And if I was getting all this, I would be like, yeah, wow, this guy is legit. He is serious. Like he is somebody I should probably listen to, right? So great job, man. So anyway.
Yeah, and I talk about you guys a lot too, the team, the power of the team. It's really, really important. People want to know that they're taken care of, they're supported, that we're giving them that 5-star service. So I talk about you guys a lot too, and how, buyers that work with us, they have the resources of not only myself, but my entire team. It just ensures that we have not just my set of eyes and ears on the streets, but like, several other agents, and that there's never a time that we can't get you into these homes on your schedule. I know that's really important. People have busy lives. There's all sorts of stuff I'll break down, try to give value. But here's the thing, don't sell something that they don't want to buy. And the only reason why you're going to know what they want to buy is if they tell you. And the only reason they're going to tell you is if you ask the right questions. So I made the mistake in the past of like way overselling some. They're like, well, that's not even important to me. It's like, great. Now I'm not getting any appointments. Okay. So like know what they want so you can sell it back to them. So, I mean, that's basically all I got. There is this little thing here that I like because it's, in truth, life is balance. If we allow ourselves to become the kind of people who refuse to see the weeds that are taking root in our gardens, our delusions will destroy us. Equally destructive, however, is what happens to those people who, out of fear, constantly imagine the garden overgrown and choked with intractable weeds. The leader's path is one of balance. He notes the weeds with a smile upon his face, knowing that the weeds' visit to the garden is all but over, because he's spotted them. He can and will immediately act to remove them. We don't have to feel negative about the weeds. They're a part of life. Life just happens. We need to see them, acknowledge them, focus on the solution, and immediately do whatever it takes to eliminate their influence from our lives. So if you have some weeds in your garden, it's not a problem. Actually be happy, be thankful for those. Like if you don't have this as a big part of your business right now, if it's not your focus, you might consider that a weed. So go out and pluck it, get better, challenge yourself, set goals on numbers, right? I'm going to have one conversation, like one new conversation a day, right? I'm going to meet new people. I'm going to put new people in my database. I'm going to put 5 new people in my database every week. And then, note the things that aren't working, the weeds, and note the things that produce fruit. And we know that the buyer's consultation works because we're investing up front. It's a massive amount of value. They know what to expect. They're working with a trusted advisor, a skilled negotiator, a marketing guru. That's it from me, guys. Any questions? Anything you're running into that we could expand on?